Surviving Reality contains explicit content full of snark and sarcasm that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Reality.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and we have made it to the finale of Season 5 of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. This is Reunion Part 3. Episode 19 kind of makes me feel like we were missing an episode. Why didn't we go to an even 20? I don't want another tell-all, though. I don't need a 4-part reunion, but we could have had another episode.
I feel like there could have been more stuff in Mexico or like after the dinner. We kind of left off on a sour note.
More stuff with Jared.
Oh, boy.
I'm upset to hear of all of the drama that was happening with Jared behind the scenes, and we did not have to see him be held accountable for that. We'll talk about it here, but Britani is the one answering for the things that Jared has done.
Well, there was a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor that they had to show us. It was never before seen. Snippets of other arguments at parties that Jared had crashed and things that he had just kind of showed up to. But then also, the text messages, the phone calls, a lot of stuff to be answering for, but Jared is nowhere to be found. But the Bravo description for this one is, the reunion concludes with Britani joining the stage to revisit the season's highs and lows. Britani discusses her relationship with Jared Osmond and confronts Bronwyn. Meredith accuses Britani of spreading misinformation about her night in Mexico.
You know, Meredith came to this reunion with a list of topics that she wanted to make sure got addressed.
Angie and Britani. I think those were the two things that she had in her notes section on her phone.
She has really taken over Andy Cohen's job, and you can tell he's so irritated with her. He can't get rid of her because she provides comic relief to the cast, but it doesn't seem like he enjoys sharing a stage with her.
It seems frustrating to work with her because then there were even the times when there were arguments that were happening where Andy is trying to explain that he agrees with Meredith, but she's continuing to argue with him. So why are we even having this conversation?
Oh, we've got a lot of arguments to talk about today, but first, my rewrite.
Yeah.
God brings Britani into Meri's life for a season. Bronwyn reads Jared's meanest text. Whitney sneaks up to the second chair. The ladies celebrate with a cold glass of Miller High Life.
Nothing really rounds out the season. I think that puts the punctuation mark at the end of the season there.
Meri forgot that she said that she liked it.
Yeah, I don't know if somebody convinced her to say that she liked it, or if they were contractually obligated to have people say that they liked it in their confessional footage, and she had no memory, no recollection of ever saying that, but there's footage of it.
And it was the biggest glass, too.
It was a big old mug. It was like an A&W chilled mug.
All right, we start out, and Britani is seated on the couch, and she's kind of disappointed because she thought she was going to have a dramatic Jerry Springer type walk on set moment.
Yeah, she was waiting for the Titantron and to have her music hit. She was going to be coming down the runway here and having a moment. She needed a moment. I think this moment fit what she brought for the season, though, is just, why don't you just have a seat and then we'll get started?
Your fourth chair, chill out.
If there were further seats that we could put you at where it's just 4 empty seats and then your seat, we would do that. But then the cameras, we wouldn't be able to, we had to move the whole set. It's a whole other arrangement. We're not doing that.
At least they're complimentary of the fashions. The hair, Britani's hair looks good. I'm going to compliment it.
Well, and of course,
Silky.
Angie has to compliment her dress because Britani showed up wearing the same dress that Angie had.
Okay, that's not what I thought you were going to say. Because she went to Angie's salon to get her hair fixed.
Oh, well, that too.
So she did make sure to make it clear that her hair is only looking like this today because Angie did it.
And factually, it's the best that Britani's hair has ever looked that I've seen on the show. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
I feel like there's still room for improvement, but we're getting there.
It's better than it's ever been, though, at this point. I've never seen her hair look this good.
The dress that she ended up wearing, the sequined, multi-toned, she looked like a Bratz doll. Just me? It was like the chunky, giant heart ring.
You keep
and
saying
the
chunky.
necklace.
I don't know what that means in a fashion sense.
I called something else chunky.
Yeah. I think you said your chunky millennial look
No.
for something. Was it chunky? Chuggy. I don't know.
We're going to get you an Urban Dictionary. It'll be okay.
Oh, man.
We need to know, what is her relationship status? That is the first question out of the gate. And did she lie? Because she's claiming she's not with Jared Osmond right now.
No, I think at the time of filming, yes, that was accurate. She was broken up with him. They're never getting back together, like ever. And then, of course, they have to provide the disclaimer at the bottom of the screen that since filming the reunion, they have gone Facebook official, Instagram official. They are in a relationship yet again. So even though she's talking about how she's learned her lesson, she's not going to get fooled and tricked by the Osmond anymore. It's over. Nothing but growth over here. I've learned a lot, and she'll be back in about a month.
I needed Andy to have like a qualifier to that question. Okay, so when did you break up? Because if it was less than 48 hours ago, we're not counting that. We need an extended period of time where this breakup has actually stuck before we can say that that has happened. I just kind of felt like she came here today. She knew that Jared was going to be a topic of conversation and that he said and did a lot of things that upset the women. So they temporarily broke up so that she can't be held accountable for anything he did.
That might be it. I'm looking at her dress now, too, to try and get more inspiration of what to refer to it. I feel like she's wearing like a bag of marbles. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Why? Because iridescence?
Well, yeah. And it's just like those clear glass marbles that have the little swirl of color through them, too. I feel like that might be why I'm perceiving it that way. This looks costumey, not couture.
That should have been the final question, costume or couture, and they could have gone down the couches and answered for everyone. But Jared is not here today because he is too busy at home behind a keyboard being an incel on Twitter.
Sending micro penis pics to unsuspecting victims.
He was so butthurt that Bronwyn made that joke about him.
I don't think that was a joke that Bronwyn made about him. I think that was information that Bronwyn came to know, and then she was shocked and then started sharing that with people. So I don't think it was a joke. I think that was Bronwyn being as serious as a heart attack.
That's why he got so offended then?
Yes.
Because there was truth in it.
Usually.
Those are the jokes that hurt the most.
Okay, what happens is when you mention a micropenis to someone who has a micropenis, they get very upset. That is very distressing to them. Because if someone said that I had a micropenis, I would probably laugh.
You wouldn't send someone a text rambling on about how... I'm trying to think of what to say so we don't get in trouble.
We're already in on micropenis talk. Just go for it.
About how your dick is twice the size of anyone's they've ever been with.
Yeah, like it would just be a different response, I think, would probably be what's going on there.
Bronwyn almost doesn't read the text that she received from Jared, which also, how did he get your number? He texted her or did he DM her?
Maybe it was a DM. She said text,
block
though.
him.
It's
block
for real.
Jared Osmond on all platforms. Don't let him near you on the internet.
Well, as soon as Britani heard, oh no, it's a text from Jared, I know what a lot of those texts are like. Please don't read that. So Bronwyn put her phone down and Andy was like, what the hell do you think you're doing?
Meri too.
Yes, Meri was like,
and Andy.
Because then Bronwyn said, should I just read the worst part? And Meri said, read it all.
Someone give Meri some cue cards.
Read all of it. You need to read every single word that is stated here. So she did. And yeah, it doesn't get any better. It was like an Angie text where it just kind of escalated. It just got worse and worse.
At least Angie is clever. She's really won me over, by the way.
Well, it was brutal. Yeah, Angie's texts are brutal. And then Jared's it got weirder and weirder.
Okay, then the weird part to me was Britani trying to turn it around about how she, like Bronwyn, who received this incredibly disgusting text from Jared, has also been a victim of him because he love bombs. And that's kind of what he did to Meri. He sent Meri a very kind text, but then we have the juxtaposition with what he sent to Bronwyn.
Well, Meri was very confused because all of her texts, every DM that she received from Jared was very complimentary about how she's a woman of God and how she's so wonderful. It was just all compliments. and very positive things. And so this is a complete opposite shift to see what he's been texting to Bronwyn.
I've gotten bad vibes about this guy since the minute we started hearing about him. I think he is a fame seeker. He wants to be on the show. And that's kind of what we find out, that he is under the impression that Britney was only cast because of her relationship with him.
Bad vibes. I think that should be an entire segment for our live streams, because we kind of got into that a little bit with the Blake Lively stuff, the Ryan Reynolds stuff, when we were talking about It Ends With Us.
Over on Patreon.
Yeah, so maybe that'll be a segment. We'll just have to go through
people who give us bad vibes.
Different celebrities who, the vibes are off.
Low frequency. Didn't he say that to Bronwyn?
Low frequency?
Something about her vibration frequency.
Oh.
I rolled my eyes so hard.
Because he didn't know how to say vibes? The vibes were off?
No, this is a thing. This is a type of speak that certain people have.
Mormons?
About no, it's not,
people
not
in Salt Lake City?
To Mormons.
Oh, Osmonds.
You know, the idea of what your vibration is at. She has a low vibration because she's not a great person.
Yeah, you can just say the vibes are off, dude. We'll know what that means. It's the same thing.
We'll be lucky if Jared will be lucky if he is back next season.
That's the way to say that. Britney, it'll be a miracle if we ever see or hear from Britney ever again. And then by association, I hope to never see or hear from Jared Osmond ever again as well.
No one has really started any problem with Britney aside from Bronwyn. So that's when this kind of pivots, and she starts coming after Bronwyn for how her kids are estranged from her, Britney's kids. What does Bronwyn have to do with Britney's kids at all? I'm still confused about what she was talking about.
I don't know where this accusation came from, because they were trying to say that they were giving Britney a hard time for being no contact with her kids, or having no contact with her daughters. And then Bronwyn was admitting that, yes, she felt a certain way about that when she found out that information. And then that turns into a whole thing where Britney is then accusing Bronwyn of tricking Britney's kids into going no contact with her through influence of friends, not directly from Bronwyn. There was no direct communication. And this is where Andy is even confused, because he's like, your audition tape had you talking about how your relationship with your daughters is so strained and it's so much drama. That was before you ever met Bronwyn. So what are you talking about?
She doesn't know what she's talking about. In my opinion, Britney has studied Housewives. She has watched the reunions. She came here today knowing that this is her audition for season 6. And she decided to come for someone who has been a very popular casting choice.
Because Bronwyn's new too, but you guys like her.
Correct.
It's because
we have decided we like her more than we like you, Britney.
We have decided we don't like Britney because it's just exhausting dealing with her. Every single thing is just the end of the world sort of reaction, and woe is me. And also, how could you do this to me? Sort of self-centered, effacing front that she has for every single circumstance. It is exhausting.
And she is trying so hard. It is not effortless for her to be a housewife.
No, yes, she's forcing it. And then the way that she brings things up, it just confuses people, because then that doesn't even make sense. I don't know why you're so mad at me. There's no reason for that. You're trying to fight, so there's a fight.
Mm-hmm. She's trying to force a storyline.
Yeah, and you're forcing it when you're not even leaning into something that already exists. There needs to be tension that's already there. It's referred to as cheap heat in the biz. Okay? So that's just, if you don't have substance to it, if there isn't a reason to care about why these two people are fighting, that's the whole basis of the business.
Well, that's a good lead into then what they start talking about, which was kind of the first fight that Britney was involved in all season, which was between her and Angie, where she got mad that Angie brought a bottle of wine over to her church party. What was it? She was holding a hearing. She was
trying to get approved.
A gathering of people from her church at her home, and Angie walked in with a bottle of wine. And she was so offended that Angie would blow her cover in front of all of these very important people.
Because Britney is living a double life. She is presenting as the perfect Mormon for her family and friends and her community. But then she's going on camera on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. She's drinking. She's fornicating. Well, not on camera, but I don't know.
Heavily implied.
Yeah, it probably could be. Based on her hair alone.
Right. The high body count hair, it's giving it away.
There's no hiding it.
I can't think about that without Angie. I look like a mother.
I look like a mother. Angie K at the bat mitzvah declaring to everyone that she looks like a mother. She looks so high fashion at that point.
The biggest injustice is the fact that this aired so far from Halloween, and I will forget that these are prime Halloween costume ideas.
Oh, man.
But they start getting on Britney about this. This isn't anyone else's responsibility to uphold the facade that you've created. So why are you so pissed at Angie?
See, I feel like Britney does feel like it's up to everybody else to uphold her facade as well. And so that is why she's upset.
It would be so easy to explain that away. She's not a Mormon. She didn't know she brought me a bottle of wine.
She's Greek.
I threw it in the trash. I'm going to cook with it.
Cooking with red, yeah, it's got to be a roast.
Was it a red?
I think it was.
Oh.
Maybe I just wanted it to be a red.
Make a nice... Get an Ina Garden cookbook. Explain that away. The funniest part of this is how Lisa inserts herself into this conversation, because Lisa lives the Mormon 2.0 lifestyle. She owns a tequila brand. She's been defending since day one her version of Mormonism. And she's seeing Britney in that, except for Britney pretends that's not who she actually is. She doesn't own it, whereas Lisa does. But she's not seeing the disconnect. This is just something that Lisa feels she needs to speak on because it's a criticism she has received in the past.
Yeah, and so it becomes personal in that way. And then I can't process that. I don't know how to think my way through that or feel that or just sit with that. So I got to throw it somewhere else.
It is just funny that sometimes Lisa is able to find the thin line that separates one situation from another, making them very different. But here she doesn't see that, because although these are similar approaches, they are different. See, I came for Lisa Barlow. Thank you, everybody.
We'll see.
There will be more.
We'll see.
I don't know. I might be moving Angie up a tick over Lisa.
I don't think that's happened yet.
They're close. They're neck and neck.
Okay.
We got to start talking about Mexico. Puerto Vallarta, it was a shit show. And there's a lot to break down that involved Britney.
Specifically, the filming in the Sprinter van, the secret recording that has taken place. That was a big problem.
That's how they opened with her, the joke about how the cameras are on. And just figured we skipped over that because, duh, you're on a show. That wasn't what it was about. It was about the betrayal.
The Sprinter van was full of cameras, too. That's why we have all this documentation of all the different angles of the recording that was taking place secretly that she continues to deny.
Just another thing that is different. It's a difference when you knew which cameras were there and were on, and then there's one that you didn't know was on and was recording.
And
or
I feel
what's
like,
going on with what they filmed.
Well, and that's where I agree with Meri Cosby, too, is where Meri Cosby is over it with Britney. She is done with this lady.
Oh, she hates her.
She has dismissed her. It was, I think, the final send-off in Mexico. She was just waiting to hear the official word that Britney has been released from the cast, because there's the inauthenticity of Britney that is wildly apparent. She can't own up to anything. She takes no responsibility for anything ever, because even when she's caught in these lies, she's making up all these excuses about the reasons that she came up with, about how she was filming out the window and she was doing, I don't even know, congratulating her daughter on her math homework. There's all these
different... There were like 4 or 5 different excuses.
And then she's still trying to say that, yes, all of those were valid excuses. Those were all things that were happening as part of that same 20-second span when I hit record on my phone. No.
She's trying to convince Andy that they have doctored the footage. And he's like, girl, we can't make the footage longer. Because she's trying to say I was only recording for like a couple of seconds, where they have footage where they are counting they have a timer ticking.
And they didn't edit. They didn't cut between or fast forward or anything like that. It's just playing at regular speed and you're watching it take place for over 20 seconds.
It was AI.
Is that what the next
That's a missed opportunity.
I don't think
missed opportunity, Brittany.
She didn't go that route, luckily, but it just lends to it's impossible for her to take responsibility.
Let's talk about Bronwyn and room assignment when they got to Mexico. Lisa did have an explanation, and I don't know if it was good because she's spent months thinking about it or what, but she claimed she put Bronwyn in the other villa because she wanted to give her the room that was like the room she had in her villa, but she wasn't going to give her her room.
No.
I mean, she was mauled by a dog, and it was pretty horrific. So, I mean, if somebody deserved to have a nice room, it seemed like her, but I had to put her in the other villa to do that.
Everybody kept saying she was bit by a dog. No, she was mauled. That was her whole leg, her whole arm. She was chomped to bits.
There were no questions about her dog's attacks on other people. I'm disappointed in that. Where was the journalism, Andy Cohen?
Could have been some follow-up. Yeah, well, he was asking if she had sued the other dog owner, and of course not. No. I even paid to make sure that the dog was checked out, and they found a medical issue with the dog, and now he lives on a farm. Wink, wink.
Well, she has been on the other end of litigation involving a dog bite, so why would she do that to somebody else?
Oh, yeah, she knows what that stress is like, and she doesn't want to wish that upon her worst enemy.
The safety discussion around how she reacted when the dog bit her, which that conversation was too detailed and went on for too long. But the highlight of it is the safety tip that you have to touch the dog's butthole, that is supposed to stop the dog mid-attack.
I think it depends on the dog. I don't know. You could be opening a can of worms there. You don't know what you're getting yourself into.
It's not like a shark where you just like boop the shark in the nose.
Is it the nose or you flip them upside down too, right?
A shark?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, like whales do that where they'll like knock the shark and then flip them upside down and then they
Well, that's not going to help me.
Freeze. Well, yeah, it doesn't help me either.
Meri Cosby through this. First of all, has Meri Cosby been mauled by a dog? Because she had a lot of opinions on what you should do in the event that you are attacked by a canine.
Well, also she wanted to know very quickly of like, oh, what are you supposed to do? Because that's what Bronwyn said. She knew all of the things that you're supposed to do. Probably because she's witnessed so many other dog attacks in her dog ownership experience. It's been a journey. So she's learned a lot too. But then in the moment, the adrenaline's running, you're in survival mode, fight or flight, and you do all of the things that you're not supposed to do. The reach around, she forgot. It's common courtesy, but she left that part out.
Mary's like, no, it doesn't work. The butthole does not work.
The butthole doesn't work. Which that needs to go on a shirt or something. Just Meri Cosby on the couch saying the butthole doesn't work. Maybe if you put a tampon in it.
What alternate universe are we in right now?
That helps for other things, but it doesn't fix everything.
Then we get on the topic of Angie and Lisa's fight, which really just started because Lisa was trying to mediate between Angie and Meredith after the bat mitzvah debacle, which I guess is a good example of Lisa inserting herself into other people's drama, which is kind of what Bronwyn has been asking her to do all season, but she has refused to do.
Well, and I think that's what continues to upset Bronwyn, is that she wants Lisa to get involved in her drama, and then she doesn't. She actively disengages from any of those circumstances.
But she is also catching shit right now for getting in the middle of Angie and Meredith. She's, you damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. That's not how you say that.
Okay.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I can't say it.
Keep trying. I'll keep them all.
I give up. We're moving on.
Okay. Well, it was weird too because Lisa kept using Meredith as a shield. She would pull her in on stuff too, or she would jump in anytime anybody was attacking Meredith on certain points.
I think they had an agreement coming into this season.
I think there was definitely collusion that was going in of you stick up for me, I stick up for you. And so there was kind of that loyalty. So maybe Lisa will be able to work out some sort of negotiation with Bronwyn before next season, and then they will be more aligned. I'm more scared about, honestly, if we're talking about it, Bronwyn and Heather becoming friends for future seasons. I think that's going to be a power friendship that could really shift the entire dynamic of the whole group.
Yeah. And what if they get into a disagreement with Angie?
And then it would
The
be
mud
Meri.
that would be slinged back
Ooh.
and forth between them.
It would be Meri and Angie against Bronwyn and Heather. And then you would have your alignments based on that. That's a WrestleMania headliner right there. It really is.
Let us start producing Housewives shows, Andy. I think we have a talent. There's something there that can be further worked upon. But why was Lisa doing that? Because like Meredith is a lawyer. She's a smart, intelligent woman who is capable of defending herself and of mediating conversations with other people.
And Angie's just like a hairdresser by her own designation, not a beauty school dropout. Go back to high school?
She does own like a fleet of
A fleet?
a fleet of hair salons.
Is it a fleet?
She owns like 7 hair salons. They make it seem like it's one because there's one in Salt Lake City, but there's a ton of them.
I knew they had 2. I didn't know it was more
No, there's
than that.
a lot.
Oh, okay. Well, good for them. Busy.
I mean, don't downplay your abilities, Angie.
But I think what she's saying about, well, honestly, yeah, that is downplaying because you got people skills. You got communication abilities. You talk good. Just keeping communication
She's
going.
an entrepreneur.
Yeah, entrepreneur. You're a successful businesswoman. Your business in hairdressing, part of it is the styling and the designing. Other part is maintaining your clientele.
Also, like, we saw what Angie had in her phone.
You're a wordsmith.
Yeah, so let's not say that
yeah.
someone doesn't need a little help defending themselves against you.
You're not playing second fiddle to anybody's insults.
There was like an entire argument that ensued after this between Lisa and Bronwyn about who defended who or didn't defend whom. And they started playing footage, and it just became clear that there were multiple times throughout the season where they each stood up for the other person, but they will not acknowledge that that happened.
Yeah, or they're just looking past it because then they're just wounded by all of the times that they expected to be backed up and then they weren't. So then those are the instances that jump to mind for them. Because, I mean, it seemed like Bronwyn was kind of heavily aligned with Lisa at the beginning of the season, because most of that stuff that they were flashing back to was like the Bezos party. That was the first episode.
Yeah, and the walk that she went on with, was it Heather, Whitney, and Angie?
I think it was just Whitney and Angie, where they were warning her about how Lisa is a mean girl.
That was like a couple episodes in.
So the defense there, yeah, I mean, it was early on, and definitely after the trip to the racetrack, I feel like that was a big one for Bronwyn to kind of realize where the loyalties actually were. And that was where she was like, I need to stop bending over backwards for Lisa Barlow. How much defending did Lisa do of Bronwyn, though? Do you remember those ones? Those aren't coming to mind for me.
It was when, I think it was when they were talking about her marriage, and she was like, no, Bronwyn's not like that. I think that her and Todd have a good relationship.
At the spa with Heather and Meredith, yes.
There were a couple of times.
But that seemed like that was unaired footage, too. It might have been.
No, I think it was just a passing moment that no one clocked. And then she was trying to misconstrue Bronwyn was some of the stuff that Lisa said after they got off the boat when Bronwyn had revealed the infidelity on Todd's part. And they showed what Lisa said, which was that Todd was going to be upset when it aired, which I don't think is untrue. But she didn't say that Bronwyn lied, which is what Bronwyn was saying she did.
No, and I would argue that Todd was definitely upset when that aired. And I think we established that when the husbands came out in the first episode.
Like, I'm not saying that Lisa's innocent. I'm not saying that Bronwyn is innocent or guilty. I'm kind of tired of hearing about the two of them fighting. And it seemed like every moment that Bronwyn found an opportunity to try to come for Lisa throughout the entire reunion, she did. And it was starting to annoy me. Even when other people were fighting with Lisa, she was talking to herself essentially about things that she was upset about.
And then there were other times too where Bronwyn her name would come up as part of other people's arguments or fights that were going on. And Bronwyn would just say, don't try and pull me into this. Don't get me involved in this. This is your guys' thing. But it is stuff that she had a hand in stirring up or starting shit, kind of. So that was another thing of note for me was to just keep an eye on from Bronwyn's side. Because again, I think the season in general, I started off not liking Bronwyn. Then I started to like her. Then I wasn't sure if I should like her or if I shouldn't like her. And now with the reunion, I feel like it's leaning me more towards I don't think I like Bronwyn, but then I'm still not 100% sure. So I'll have to see how the rest of it plays out in future seasons and what that looks like. But it was kind of confusing because it feels like whatever we built up with Bronwyn, we kind of tore that down at the reunion and towards the end of the season here.
Yeah, and Whitney noticed when they played some of the footage where Bronwyn like leaned over and whispered about something and told someone what someone else said. And she said, messy, messy, messy. The secret's out. Now that they've rewatched the season and saw what you told everybody, you're going to be a little untrustworthy to tell things to.
Well, and I think, yeah, too, like the stuff when she was barging in at the bat mitzvah where she was telling Angie the stuff that Britney had said.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think it was that one because then she was so excited to do that in the moment. But then now looking back on it, it's kind of played down or toned down.
She has a lot of excuses for when she inserts herself into situations and makes them worse.
And when she feels like she's doing it, she feels justified in it, and it's fine when she does it. So there is a lot of complaints that she has about Lisa's behavior that are reflected in Bronwyn as well. Because I don't give Lisa a pass on it either. You see that a lot too. A lot of the stuff where I know you're looking at me. You got a face on. But I'm just saying, I think that Bronwyn's assessment of Lisa not being completely understanding of other people's situations, and then when she is in those situations, she expects more out of people than what she would give them in those same situations. And I feel like that's something that Bronwyn and Lisa do to each other all the time. It's something that's reflected in their relationship. They both have that expectation of when it's happening to them, it's a showstopper. But then if it's happening for somebody else, this other person who's supposed to be your friend,
Maybe that's what annoys me about Bronwyn then, because it's like there's a hypocrisy there that isn't acknowledged. But then you want to point out how that's a shortcoming of Lisa's.
I think she keeps calling it out. Yeah. And then that's the...
Look in the mirror.
Not even a deflection. It's the reflection. Yeah.
The most surprising part of the tell-all new information that we learned was Jen Shaw called Meredith from prison and Meredith answered and talked to her.
For 10 minutes. 10 minutes. What do you think they talked about for 10 minutes?
I don't know, because everybody was so taken aback and wanted to talk about how horrific it was that Meredith would answer the phone and talk to her that we never actually found out what they talked about.
I will say it's bad. That's bad. Meredith shouldn't have done that. That was a pretty bad call.
I feel like she just had like pure curiosity that she wanted to know why she was calling her.
Well, I think that's how you needed to frame that, because then Meredith was talking about forgiveness. I forgive people because that's in my benefit, because otherwise I'm going to be mad at them. No, you can forgive things that happened, but then you can hold a grudge. Grudges aren't bad. And Meri Cosby gets it. She's like, no, we have been wronged by Jen Shaw. Jen Shaw lied the entire time. Her whole defense in court, all of her character witness stuff that she was asking everyone to provide, she was blaming people from the cast for things.
Yeah, I think she blamed them for calling and reporting her to the authorities.
So this isn't good. Yeah, that's not a good look. That's not good behavior that we've seen from this person. So maybe we can remember all of that. It's okay to give them an opportunity to see if they've changed, sure. But you need to be mindful of, this person that you were dealing with. It could be a different person now based on she's serving her time currently. There could be some change. There could be some transformation there, some personal character development. I don't know. And you won't know without giving them a chance. And I think that's what Meredith's kind of saying here. But I feel like Meredith is like, oh, I forgave and forgot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's like, we should not be doing the forgetting. I think we need to keep that in mind of prior behavior and be mindful of that moving forward.
There may be two things going on here. One makes me question, what does Jen Shaw have on Meredith?
Ooh.
Because those are the types of relationships that Jen has had. Just like when she punched Heather in the face, and that was a big secret that they conspired to keep together. Like, is there something going on that would cause Meredith to answer the phone when Jen called her? And secondly, does she think that there's a good chance that Jen is going to get cast on this show again? And she's getting a little ahead of being the one who's going to welcome Jen back into the group.
The first one to, with open arms, waiting for her return.
If she's the only one who's willing to film with her, does that guarantee that maybe Meredith stays on another season? Just a question, because Meredith has been MIA. At least she was for like the whole first half of this, 16 episode season before we got to the tell-alls?
The bat mitzvah. She gave us the bat mitzvah. And that was a high point. Not going to lie.
Whitney's especially pissed about this because she talked to Monica and everyone was so appalled that she would call Monica.
Okay, look, that's not the same thing.
It's not the same.
That
That's
is not
my
the same.
opinion.
Sorry, Whitney. And you're trying to use this to weasel your way out. I feel like that is a completely different situation.
You called Monica because you wanted information, and it was about what Monica did to betray the entire group with knowing rumors about them and feeding them to the internet. That's why she called her, to talk about what she thought Lisa was doing to her.
Jen Shaw was at least a friend. Monica was fame-seeking and had ill intentions from the get-go.
I guess you could say the same thing about Jen.
I mean, everybody on the cast, technically. But I mean, at least there was the core group, the friend group that was there. Some people were very quick to dismiss Jen Shaw as a friend.
Meredith didn't even like Jen.
So, yeah, I feel like there has to be a strategy here for Meredith to pick up the phone. She's building a case. They're going to win it on appeals.
They rehashed the text game that was played in Mexico, and they keep saying that this was a big success.
I think for most of it was. Well, except for the ones where people phoned it in, literally, and we're talking about Britani, which they didn't even bring up because what other commentaries needed to be provided for that. I feel like they just needed to say, I think that was pretty sad that you didn't use this as an opportunity like everybody else did, because there were the instances that were referenced as successes in this, like with Bronwyn and Angie and Heather and Whitney. Even though the Heather and Whitney one, that felt fake too. That felt staged, because I think that was our theory going into that, was that this was just a way for Whitney to bring up more shit for Lisa.
And Heather was complicit in it.
Yeah.
I think they had an agreement coming into the season, just like I think Lisa and Meredith did, about backing each other. I thought we already talked about what happened in Mexico. Like, did that already happen at the reunion, or am I just imagining it?
Well, this must have been like parts of it, because then this was a bigger blow up. This was a bigger part of that conversation. So I feel like this was why they dropped it into the third part of the reunion. So maybe they had the initial warm-up discussion that they kind of sprinkled in over the first few parts there, and then this was the part that they kept in because it was the most compelling to have here for the finale.
Which is really just giving Lisa a hard time for not burning it with Whitney, because that was the whole reason that Whitney chose that particular text, was because she knew that talking about Lisa's marriage would be the thing that would upset her the most out of everything she said about her. And the whole purpose was to say the most horrible things so that you can burn it and move on.
So what was annoying about this was how Whitney and Bronwyn kept chiming in while Lisa was trying to talk, and they just kept talking over her until Lisa finally exploded. And then, it looks like she's flying off the handle. She's losing her composure. And it's like, yeah, because this is very irritating. You're asking me a question and then you're talking over my entire answer.
I was getting annoyed as a viewer because I'm trying to listen to hear what Lisa has to say because a question was posed to her. And Whitney's talking, Bronwyn's talking, at some points Meredith's talking, trying to translate for Lisa like Lisa does for her. It was a lot. I wouldn't want to be the sound guy on this show.
No, yeah, it was brutal.
I'm not sure how we got here, but Lisa starts crying out of frustration, and she's rambling about how she's one of 6. Like, her parents never even noticed her when she was growing up. She could have been trafficked and nobody would have known. And everyone's like, I'm sorry. Like, what? She just starts like trauma dumping on them about things that didn't actually happen in her life.
I don't know where the inspiration came from to share that, where that popped off. But yeah, it just kind of went stream of consciousness a little bit there as far as whatever was rattling around in her head. It just came spilling out.
I mean, that's some insight into Lisa Barlow, isn't it?
Is it?
Was that little Lisa coming out and telling us, like...
Which part of Lisa was that?
We need to do parts therapy with Lisa Barlow on the show. Whitney gets up and she comes to sit next to Lisa, which nobody has moved from their seat yet. So this was kind of weird. She's like, everybody just like scooch over a little bit. Maybe we could bump Britney off the end of the couch.
Yeah, that was the plan. Yeah. I feel like it was Whitney was upset that she was at the end, even though she thought that her and Lisa had really good fights all season. So she thought she was going to be further up, closer to Andy there.
Yeah, so she got her way. She got up there now.
Maybe if I seat myself next to Lisa, kind of closer to Andy, he'll just think that he placed me there as part of this when he's considering who to invite back for next season.
I think they just have Britney move to the end of the other couch where Whitney was and everyone else could shift down one. That's what she was trying to do. Heather. Get into the third.
I gotta scooch in. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I'd be upset about that seating.
I mean, I get why Lisa and Whitney weren't seated next to each other, though.
Okay, my second theory is that it's because of Bronwyn's dress. It was just like a sound barrier. She couldn't hear or see Lisa, and she's trying to argue with her.
Well, technically, it was Bronwyn was getting in between them. Bronwyn kept throwing in her jabs at Lisa and how terrible of a friend she is this whole season, too. So then Whitney had to say, hey, this is about us. I want to talk to Lisa. And so it was just Whitney and Lisa eye to eye and talking directly then with nothing in between them.
I guess it's a success because they get to some type of understanding that the problem was that Whitney keeps doing the same thing over and over again. So even though she wanted to burn this with Lisa, it's like, well, we've had this happen before, so I'm not going to burn it with you and have it happen again.
See, it's the difference between forgiving and forgetting, and then forgiving and moving forward.
Well, that's ironic because Meredith was one who had to translate this for us.
Yeah, I know.
Mm-hmm. They agree to move on, unless it gets brought up again, and then all bets are off.
There'll be hell to pay.
Which I think was like, you know, the whole point of the burn it exercise was that you do forgive and forget and you move on. You never talk about it again, but I don't think that that's going to happen for these two.
Well, I get that's what they're saying is that's the point of it is to forgive, forget, move on for these specific circumstances that we're talking about and referencing here. But then you don't get to keep doing that and then just ask to forgive and forget every single time that you keep doing that. Because then that's what they're saying is if I'm forgiving you,
there needs to be some change in your behavior as well.
Yeah, like you can't just keep doing the same stuff and then asking for my forgiveness continually. I'm not Jesus Christ.
Also, get a new move, Whitney. Like, learn to contribute something else on this show instead of bringing false rumors all the time.
Yeah, she really needs to get her facts straight because I think that was what Meredith's one piece of advice to Whitney was, and she still didn't even take that. So I guess that's why Meredith is upset with Whitney is because she didn't listen to her advice at the beginning of the season.
Do you have anything else before we get to the end of this? Because Andy was clearly tired of listening to them all yell, so he has one final game to play.
Well, he has to excuse Britney from the group, though, first, because we don't have anything nice to say about Britney.
Yeah, she thought she was going to stay out there for the entire last part. They were like, "No, girl, you're not actually cast." So, friend of, get back in the green room. She was watching from behind the curtain the entire time.
She did get a chilled mug of Miller High Life, though. So she was able to partake in the toast, but she wasn't directly involved.
Well, that's because they gave her that and an Applebee's gift card for being here today.
Probably.
She's not actually getting a paycheck.
Not too far off.
They all have to say something nice about the person that they're prompted to speak about. So Lisa is asked to talk about Whitney, and she says Whitney is a great friend when she's committed, and good luck in your businesses. Which, neither of those actually sounded like compliments to me.
Not nice, per se.
No, and at the end, Whitney gets asked to do the same thing for Lisa, and she says the same fucking thing about Lisa. When Lisa shows up as a friend, she can be a very good friend. So either Whitney is completely unoriginal, or she decided that was backhanded, and decided to give it back to Lisa.
Okay, yeah.
Meredith takes a similar approach when she's asked about Angie, and she says that she hears that Angie's a good friend. She just hasn't seen it.
Personally, I can see that the friendship between Angie and Meri, it's very good. But I don't think I know this version of the good friend Angie. I only know backup dancer and WAP video Angie.
I think the most productive part of the conversation was Bronwyn and Heather. Like, I think there's a chance that the two of them may unite next season and become friends.
It was scary, though, because it seemed like it was a positive thing. It was them saying nice things to each other. But I just had, I don't know, there was like this dark shadow looming over it for me of just like this ominous foreshadowing that would happen of those two teaming up would just be such a power dynamic in this friend group. I think Heather knows it too, but she was apprehensive. She was nervous. She didn't want to do this on Bronwyn's first season.
I mean, what's going to happen if Heather ditches Whitney and starts hanging out with Bronwyn? Because like Whitney is hanging on by a thread to be relevant on this show.
I feel like Whitney is trying to be in alignment with Bronwyn on a lot of things too, because it was with the argument with Lisa. There were plenty of times where Whitney and Bronwyn would agree about Lisa's behavior too. So I feel like she is trying to find that common ground with Bronwyn and establish that. So then that way she can be part of that dynamic as well if it does go that route. And maybe Bronwyn is seeing Whitney as an avenue to Heather. That's a way to build a bridge to Heather then.
I like the way you're thinking. Very Housewives-esque. Housewives-y?
Oh. So, I mean, yeah, but that would be quite a split though. Cause I don't know. That would mean that Lisa and Meredith would have to split because then they would have to pick alignment between Angie and Meri or Bronwyn and Heather. So then that could be kind of fun because it was Lisa and Meredith were like really close this season and going to bat for each other. And so they might have some dirt on each other.
And what if Meredith floats over to Angie and Meri?
That would be wild. But it would make sense for her to align with, kind of align with Bronwyn. Maybe Bronwyn and Heather. Would Meredith fit better there? No, it would be a twist.
Meredith doesn't stray very far from the people that she's already, I'm not going to say friends, she's got acquaintances with.
Well, it seemed like, because then even Heather and Meri Cosby were really building on their friendship too. So then that's kind of interesting. Maybe the split that would happen if it would be Angie and Meredith make up from their fight, and then we end up with Angie, Meredith, and Lisa. And then as part of the Meri Cosby split, she goes with Bronwyn and Heather and Whitney. I don't think Meri Cosby likes Whitney though.
No.
At all.
No,
I don't think
she finds her really annoying.
She can't spend time with her. So I think she is enjoying Heather. She likes Bronwyn's authenticity. So Meri she could probably float between those groups though too.
You need somebody who's able to float between the two groups.
Which that could be good. Yeah, there's plenty of ways that this can go. And they're just setting it up. There's so many options moving forward. You can drink a Miller High Life and really ponder all of the different possibilities.
Well, and Meri makes sure she seals the deal because she's like, you know what, Andy, don't ask me to talk about the person that you originally were going to ask me about. I want you to talk about me and I'll talk about you. So she really like hams it up at the end and gives Andy a ton of compliments. So I think rest assured that Meri Cosby will be joining us in season 6.
I wasn't worried about that. Yeah, she'll be back.
Any other casting changes that you can see? I think that this season, Meredith and Whitney were definitely in a precarious spot, which is indicated by their positions on the couch. Heather too. But I question whether Heather took a little bit of a backseat because she had such a forward position last season with everything that went on with Monica. So I wouldn't count her out.
Right. Yeah, I think she had to dial it back because of the end of season 4. Yes. So I could see that now building into something with Bronwyn if they're able to get there. So that could be interesting.
I kind of think that Britani will be back because she's disliked, but she also behaved herself. Like they have a big problem on Salt Lake City with the friend of cast members where they pop off and say like really racist and horrible things online and then they get taken off the cast.
Well, it's just the Osmond that we have to keep an eye on then. When are we going to cancel Jared Osmond?
But we have an opportunity for him to create tension in the group.
Not with Meri Cosby though. Only compliments.
The season was so good, I really don't think that they need to make any major changes.
Is there room for Monica?
Ooh, that's a big question.
If you're teasing a Jen Shaw return.
Well, there were supposed to be 2 friends of, remember Meri? And Meri just fell off the face of the earth because she was a problematic person.
Disappeared.
And
wait, she was problematic?
Yes, that's part of why she just like got erased from the show and they never talked about her again.
I thought she was just boring and didn't really contribute anything for the most part.
Well, that's what it seemed like if you didn't like pay attention to anything that came out about her.
I didn't see that. No, yeah.
I mean, they did cast photos and everything with her. She was supposed to be a friend of, just like Britani. So there's an opportunity for someone else to come in. Will it be Monica? And then does that open a door for the season after for perhaps Jen Shaw to come back after she gets out of prison?
I don't know how Monica would be able to come back. She wouldn't be able to come back in the same role that she was in because she was a monster. She was just 100% villain, nothing but villain.
Yeah, and the ladies still seem to like despise her so much that I'm not sure they would be able to sell that into the group because somebody is going to have to film with Monica, at least initially, to get her back in. Or is that going to be Meredith's storyline of, I'm a forgive and forget kind of person? We don't think that Monica deserves a second chance?
I think they can all agree. They seem to be in pretty good understanding amongst the group that you don't trust Monica. You don't go and deal with that.
I'm still convinced that she stole Lisa's $60,000 ring. So I don't know if I want her back on the cast. She did literally steal something out of Meredith's store.
Oh, yeah. It was on camera. Meredith was secretly recording that with her security camera footage. For someone who hates to be secretly recorded, she had security cam footage of that.
Well, there's one thing that we know for sure. When this comes back next season, it's going to be amazing. And tell everyone you know, because I'm getting so tired of telling all of my friends and family members, if you are sleeping on Salt Lake City, you need to be watching it. And then they just don't. They say everyone's telling them to do it, but then they don't actually do it. And now we're in the off season. You can binge all 5 seasons.
If you don't want to do all 5, if that's too much, start at season 3. You don't need to do all 5. Season 3 will give you plenty of backstory where you get dropped right in on some stuff. They'll fill you in on things as needed, and maybe you'll want to go back and watch the first 2 seasons too after that. Sure. But if it's too overwhelming, then yeah, just start at season 3.
So that's our pitch that you can repeat to your friends, whoever, the people, your coworkers who watch
New York, Beverly Hills.
Or who don't watch anything. And you're like, I need someone at work that I can connect with and talk about trashy reality TV. They need to get into Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
It's very true.
Well, some announcements before we go. This is obviously our last episode of Salt Lake City. So what comes next?
Well, we've still got The Traitors season 3. We are going episode by episode as those come out on Peacock every Thursday night. So we release our public podcast episode for those every Saturday morning. And if you're on the Patreon, you get them early and ad-free the night before on Friday nights.
Another amazing show that you should not be sleeping on.
Oh, all the different iterations too, because you got the US, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. Tons of options, tons of entertainment, and it's always something interesting going on.
We're also going to get into a little bit of true crime and release some one-offs here and there. So make sure that you're subscribed and you get all those episodes, because even though we're just going to be talking about The Traitors week by week, we're going to be releasing other things until we get to Gypsy Rose. Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup Season 2 is going to be coming back, what is that, March 10th? So that'll be the next series that we recap in its entirety here.
If you're still looking for more content even after that, we also have our other podcast, Surviving Sister Wives. So make sure you go over, sign up, subscribe. You can find the links in the episode description for all of that additional content and everywhere you can follow us.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.